Rake! Wakey with Drakey.
What's going on, my brother? Welcome to the Hangout. Hey, Robbie.
Yeah.
You know what time it is, right, brother?
Yeah. Let me see.
You're going to
What
have to
time is
back in it easier.
It's a little scary there.
Those are words you never want, doctor. All right, so welcome to the Hangout Live. We're back. Oh, wait. Robbie does like hearing those words. Is that what you said?
I said Dr. Lochner. The glove goes on here.
Oh, all right, all right.
Smell the glove.
No, don't smell the glove, dude. If the glove does not fit, you must have quit. Don't you know? Come on, brother.
I know that.
All right. So it's been a long week.
Before we go anywhere, I got to give a shout out to Patty Johnson. For anybody who knows Patty, she's been a fan of, and a friend, I should say, of the band, Jack Russell's Great White. And the following week, on June 2nd, she was going to come out to a show, her and her husband, Jim, and they were going to drive us, Jack and I, and we're doing an acoustic show, bring us over to Sunbury for a festival over there. And her husband passed away. Oh. So prayers to her and her family. There's just no words. I talked to her last night. I go, there's no words. What can you say other than just prayers for her? Really sad time.
Absolutely.
So I know she's not watching because, she's got a lot on her plate right now. And just for anybody who knew her, throw out some prayers.
Absolutely. Keep her in your prayers. It's been a long week, my brother. We've had a lot going on. You're getting ready to play a show up in the top side of, where is that? Oregon?
Winnemucca.
And I'm going to meet you up there, actually, because we're heading up that way to our hemp farm in Oregon. So I'm going to stop by and hang out with you and Sean Baxter. Sean Baxter's going to be there. So
nice.
That's going to be a good time. We leave on Friday to head up that way. It's going to be a long drive, bro.
We've got some great shows coming up. We'll be announcing soon. We can maybe even announce who some of the guests are.
Right now, we've got a great show
tonight, right? We start with tonight. That was a great show.
Yeah, I think we bring him in, brother. Yeah. You're predictable. Something like that.
Hey, nothing like that.
Predictable? Mark Schenker. That's who's not predictable. Oh,
anyway,
how was that lead in? What's going on, brother?
Oh, not too much. Just waiting for the shows to crank up again.
Amen to that.
It's coming our way hard. So we got a lot of shows on the books, and that's a good thing. And interestingly, a lot of the shows that we have are shows we had last year that are just rescheduled. They're not new business, so they're at least we didn't really lose any. I think we lost a couple of them, but most of them are rescheduled. So we're happy to just still at least have those.
Absolutely. Have you been able to play any dates?
Say again?
Have you been able to play any dates yet?
Kix played 2 dates, but I'm in a Rush tribute called Sundogs, and we've actually played all the way through the pandemic, except for maybe the first 3 months. Did a lot of social distancing shows. We're a little bit cheaper band than Kix, so venues could open up at 30% capacity and still pay us and get the bartenders and waitresses paid and all that good stuff. So yeah, we've had one show, sometimes 2 shows a month. This past Saturday, we played back-to-back shows in Baltimore, which is really something we won't do again. You play an hour and a half of Rush and then another hour and a half of Rush. It's pretty taxing on the body. So
absolutely.
Hey, we got to play, and it was no masks, so it was great, And they were sold out.
Who's singing the Geddy Lee stuff?
Say again?
Who's singing the Geddy Lee stuff?
We're a power trio, so I do all the Geddy Lee stuff.
Wow. Oh.
Yep.
That's not easy. So I could see 2 hour and a half back to back. Woo.
Well, usually we do 2 1 hours with like a 10-minute break.
Yeah.
But it's not like the voice gets tired. What happens is that music is so complex that you just lose focus. And if you have a train wreck playing a Rush song, there's no coming back. It goes off the rails hard. So you got to, keep your focus and really think about what you're doing when you get that tired on stage. It's not like, banging through a Kix song Riding E for the rest of the night or something, you know. I mean, Kix is a little more complicated than that, but you get my point, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Absolutely. Michelle Russell Powers says she was at the show Saturday.
Oh, good. Man, that place was packed. I couldn't believe we sold out 2 shows at the famous Recker Theater in Baltimore. And
Wow.
you know, we're getting a lot of Kix crossovers, you know, and I think we're actually getting a lot more girls at the show than Rush would get at their shows.
Wow.
Well, Kix has always been a band that chicks love Kix.
Yeah, this is true.
Mean, I was hearing about Kix from, you know, back in the 80s before they even broke out. I had a friend of mine that grew up in Baltimore. I met him in Tucson when I was living there, and he was talking about Kix, and he had a band called Kick the Dog.
It's a good name. I like that name.
Kick the Dog.
He said, "Oh, we opened up for Kix, and his sister dated somebody in the band." And I don't know, this is, you know, a long time ago, but you know, once the word started getting out, I mean, all the girls love Kix, right, ladies? Right?
Melissa Smith says, "True statement, Robbie," right there.
Well, I think back then everybody had a sister that dated somebody in the band at one point or another.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the 80s, right?
Right, and even if it was for a night, you know, it was what it was.
Yeah.
Or half the night, whatever it might have been.
Right. The definition of dating gets a little cloudy
right.
back then. It got a little cloudy back then, you know what I mean? So
there was gray area. It's gray area.
Yeah.
It's a gray matter.
So they're saying Jack Russell's Great White and Kix, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. We get. I think it's like sometimes I wonder why we don't play with certain bands, and you know, I think it really has to do about the agents. You know, it's like we play. I mean, the guys on our roster are you know, Queensryche and Slaughter and Vince Neil. And so we do a bunch of shows with them, and we end up somehow doing a bunch of shows with Night Ranger.
Oh yeah.
And which is one of my favorites. But
they're amazing.
Yeah, so I think these like pair ups on these shows that aren't festivals have more to do with, you know, the agent selling a package.
They do. You're with Sullivan, yeah, you're with Sullivan, right? So he pairs his guys up, and we're with Arm, and it's the same thing. He pairs us up pretty much with his acts, and occasionally there's crossover here and there, but not a lot, really.
Yeah, like we don't do many shows with LA Guns, whom I like, and you know, they're fun to watch, and they who knows, they might be on Sullivan's roster this week, but we do a bunch of shows with Master. I mean, you know, everybody. Yeah, a lot of people change agents for different reasons, but you know, Sullivan has Faster, so we do a bunch of shows with them, and you know, but oddly enough, we do a bunch of shows with Queensryche too, which you wouldn't think would fit, but people, you know, like the heavier stuff, and they like Kix as well, so it's usually a pretty good matchup.
Yeah,
nice. That sounds like an interesting show, actually. Queensryche and Kix.
Queensryche is so good, man. They got it nailed. I mean, they're just. I mean, say what you want about Jeff Tate and Todd, but Todd is just fantastic. I mean, he's absolutely mind blowing, and so
he is.
You couldn't really get it any better than that. And they all seem to be very happy working together. So what else can you say about it? You know,
that's it. And if you had to replace Jeff Tate, they got the guy that, you know, he sings really, really well, and he's a really good drummer. For anybody who doesn't know, he's actually a really good drummer. He's
a great drummer. Yeah, really good. He played drums on Monsters of Rock cruise not too long ago. A couple cruises ago, I think he got up and played drums with some people.
Wow.
And everybody was like, "Oh my God, who knew you played drums?" He's like, "I've been a drummer all my life. I don't know." What to say.
He's a drummer who just happened to be able to had an amazing voice, and all of a sudden thrown out in front, and he's the guy, you know.
Yeah, he's great. So we like playing shows with them. They're super nice guys, and you know, just really genuine people. You know, it's good to always play with cool people. You know.
Yeah, it's cool. And we've actually done shows, we played on M3 because you guys are there every year, the Friday night headlining. We came in and played. We've been there 3 or 4 times, and you guys were there. And we come out and watch. We get in early and you know, come and see you guys, of course, you know.
Yeah, it's fun. M3's our backyard, so we do well there on Friday nights, luckily for us. So
yeah,
good for them too. Keep asking us back. So
Yep.
Just be doing something right. The fans are the thing, though. So.
Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Joan Chapman, thank you for helping us with this. Quick shout out to her. She says, don't play any Kicks tunes on the show tonight. We did that with Brian Forsyth, and our show got immediately.
Right.
You
can't play any music. I mean, you can play something off Rock Your Face Off. We own that. So, but, it doesn't matter. Some people would rather hear people talk than hear songs they've heard a million times anyways. So,
yeah, because that's get some of the stories that people haven't heard. That's what we're into digging.
Yeah. True that.
Hell yeah. So you grew up, you were born back in September. I'm not going to say the year because I don't give away ages on this show.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
It's been a while.
We learned that lesson when I told everybody Robbie was 67.
Yes. They're like, what? It can't be.
What? All right. So before fame, you have a master's certificate in songwriting from Berklee College. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's true.
Really?
Yeah.
How was that back in the day?
That wasn't back in the day, actually. I did that in 2008.
Wow, nice.
It's fairly recent, it was current, and it was, I used to think I knew how to write songs until I learned from, people that are pros that have written, dozens and dozens of hit songs. And, it's just it can be it's a creative thing, but it's also you can write a song, but then if it sucks, what you learn at Berklee is you learn how to fix it. And so you learn about how to find the weak spots in what your song is, and all the different things that you have in your toolbox that they give you to learn how to fix it. And, you write a song and you always hear a part. It's like, that part bugs me, and I don't really, and before I would be like, well, I don't really like that song that much, because this one part always bugs me. But I learned how to fix those parts and sort of be, whether it be lyrics or arrangement or just a different riff or whatever. I really learned how to fix that stuff and how to turn a marginal song into at least maybe not a great song, but at least I have gone through all the steps and gone through my entire toolbox to try to make it the best that it can be. And it still might suck, but at least I have all these tools that I can go through and really, tune my songs up and make them sound a lot more pro, in my opinion.
Right.
So yeah, it was a great experience. I recommend it to anybody, even if it's just taking a couple of, just a couple of classes on harmony or anything really. I mean, you can't not benefit from taking a couple classes from Berklee if you're a songwriter. And I didn't major in an instrument or anything, so I don't know what the instrument part of it is like. Like some people go there and they major in voice and they want to get on American Idol and all that good stuff, or they go and their primary instrument is piano or whatever it is. So
right.
I've heard it's a bit grueling if you specialize in an instrument there, but I had when I was teaching music, I had 5 of my students got accepted to Berklee, and they've all graduated now, and they were able to get through the guitar program because I was mostly a guitar teacher. It's hard to get bass students, because bass students are usually guitar students who got thrown into the bass role, as was I when I was younger. So yeah, I highly recommend it to anybody who's looking to improve their songwriting skills in any way.
Nice. Hell yeah. Uh-oh. Melissa says you hung out and talked to the girls after the show.
Yeah. She, says she, it's so funny. We only, usually we play a much longer set with a lot more songs in it in Sundogs. And we cover as much of the Rush catalog as we can over those 2 hours, and we switch songs out. And one of the songs that we cut from the set because of the time limitation was The Trees. And like 5 people came up to me after the show and they're, why don't you guys play The Trees? And it's like, well, we do, but we just didn't play it tonight because we had a time restriction, So yeah, you weren't the only one that requested The Trees, and we will remember that next time.
There you go. Jim wants to know if there's anything in the works for a show at Spyglass Winery in Sunbury.
For kicks, no, not at the moment, because I think that we are playing the Susquehanna Event Center. And for Sundogs, we might be playing there on August 14th, depending on if Billy Idol decides he wants to play there or not. So we're the backup in case Billy falls through.
Billy might fall through.
He might fall through. It's hard to tell. But yeah, it was a great venue. Spyglass was awesome. I mean, it was, I think it was our first gig with our new guitar player, and it was spectacular. A great venue, just people out on the lawn. It's like a mini M3. It's really great. Great place.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that. We're playing there on June 5th.
Oh, you're gonna love it. It's so great, Robbie. You're just gonna be like, oh man, when can we come back here? It's awesome. Cool. Nice. One of the better venues that we've played in that part of Pennsylvania for sure.
Nice.
So I see in the notes here you're coming to Texas soon to play a show. Is that correct?
Yeah, a couple weeks. Yeah, Texas is my home state. That's where I was born. So
yeah, baby.
I am. Are you born in Texas?
I'm not born in Texas, but I do live in Texas. So.
Oh, where do you live?
I live in San Angelo.
San Angelo. Well, you probably never heard of where I was born either. So I was born in Killeen.
Killeen. Yes, yeah. I do. Actually, my kid just got out of Fort Hood.
Oh, okay. Well, that's why I was born there, because my dad was military. So
yeah,
he was stationed in Fort Hood when I was born. So yeah.
Oh, cool. Killeen is about 3 hours up the road from us.
Yeah, Texas is a big state. Yeah, when I drive somewhere, it takes a while.
Right. Amen to that, brother. So where are you guys playing at?
So you grew up in Texas then?
I grew up all over the place because I was a military kid. So when I was 16 years old, we had actually moved 16 times. So I had been spent some time in Texas and Oklahoma, and then I think we were in Amarillo for a while. So yeah, back and forth. I think the only military base we avoided in Texas was El Paso. There's a big Army base there. I forget which one it's called, but when Kix goes to El Paso, it's you always see the giant base flying in. And it's like, wow, the place is huge, So, but we're playing Dallas at Gas Monkey Live on. I'll tell you. Bo Hill just called me. I gotta call him back.
There you go.
Yeah. Gas Monkey Live is June 11th, and then June 12th is in Houston at the Warehouse.
Oh, we just played the Warehouse. You'll like
it. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
We've done it twice, I think.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
It was what a nice little venue they built up there. It's pretty awesome. Can't wait to get back there.
Cool.
Well, those dates I'm actually tied up. I won't be able to make the show. I've got a show I'm doing up here in San Angelo 2 nights.
Well, okay. Well,
so, but next time
we'll be back
here to San Angelo and have fun with it.
Yeah, we end up in Texas at least, probably once every summer. We end up there in one way or another. So yeah, we'll be back.
So I want to know, how did you end up in music instead of in the military? How did that?
Well, I mean, my parents were very supportive of me, and my mom was, she always encouraged me to read books, and, she put me in front of the TV when Jacques Cousteau was on when I was a kid, and all the National Geographic specials. So, they always encouraged me to do, whatever my whims were, as opposed to, my father was in Vietnam, and his opinion was, the last thing I want you to do is go to war. So do not join the military. So he had a little bit different, my brother and I are the first generation in our family to have not been in the military for that reason, because our father was, last thing I want my kids to experience is war. And so, yeah, we didn't sign up, but I went out on the road when I was young, started playing in bars, and they were like, hey, I remember my dad having a conversation with me when I went out before I left for the first, long time away from home, when I was in a touring cover band. And he said, just, 2 things. Don't make your mom cry, and don't cost me any money.
So I'm curious, you were doing the cover circuit. What circuit were you on at that time?
East Coast. We were playing all the way from Nova Scotia down to Gadsden, Alabama, and all points in between.
Okay.
And so we were with a management company called CMC Management, and they were trying to get us a record deal at the time. And we did a bunch of showcases, and things didn't pan out. And then Nirvana came out, and then it was over. So no chance of getting a deal then. But yeah, I did that for like 4 years, and my hello in Minnesota might actually be getting warm up there now. So
right.
Yeah. So yeah, we moved around quite a bit, and those were the only 2 rules that were ever laid on me for going to go play music. It's just don't cost me any money and don't make your mom cry. I was like, all right, well, that seems pretty reasonable. I think I can handle that. So
you never cost him money though.
I think what he was getting at was like, don't make me have to get a lawyer to get you out of jail or whatever.
All right.
Don't be a drunken asshole, and definitely don't get a DUI in the South, which is where we were headed at the time, I think. And yeah, I think that was sort of his point was, don't make me have to get a lawyer to rescue you or whatever. So yeah, it was good.
So that circuit was actually in the late 80s, early 90s. Is that when the time frame was?
Yeah, it was like it was like 88 to 92, and there were clubs everywhere in the South, North Carolina, South Carolina, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, Massachusetts. There was a club in Maine that we used to jump off and go to Nova Scotia, and the clubs were everywhere. I mean, it was so easy to get gigs, and just keep playing. Sometimes we played 7, 8, 9, 10 days in a row, but typically we'd have Sunday and Monday nights off, and then Wednesday night in one club, and then Thursday night was always ladies' night, and Friday night and Saturday night were that, and then Sunday night, maybe you'd have it off or maybe you didn't, but it was always, you'd park somewhere for 4 or 5 days and play that club, doing 4 or 5 sets a night. It was brutal schedule.
Back in the day when that could happen, there was, I was wondering, because I was thinking you were out of Texas at the time, there was the Sammy circuit, there was, all the Cardi clubs and stuff, and bands were doing this whole routine around the Southwest, Texas. There was bands coming from Denver. So this side of the country had the same sort of thing, and bands would play 5 nights a week doing covers. And that's long gone. You don't see that anymore. That's just,
you can make a living doing that back then. I mean,
you could. And now it's
actually had money.
Yeah. And the venues were big, right? I mean, look at like Hammerjacks was one of I got the shirt on because I was helping represent you guys.
Thanks.
But, there was clubs everywhere. In Arizona, there were big clubs, and there was just people would come in, and there'd be 1,000-seat clubs, and they would fill up.
And you play covers and sell out a 1,000-seat club, and be like, it just, you got used to it. And then when it dried up, I remember playing in a band around 94 or so, and we were playing a lot of Soundgarden because our singer sounded like Chris Cornell, and you'd even have a good name in the local scene, and there'd still only be 25 or 30 people there,
Right.
And you'd be like, well, what the fuck happened?
Yeah.
It was really mind bending. I mean, on a local level like that, and local cover band touring, but of course it was much worse for the Kicks guys. That drop off was a cliff for sure, for everybody back then.
All the 80s acts, everybody just took a nosedive. I mean, it was a hard period. I think it was because it was so decadent and so big for so long. Is really the longest era of big bands. It really started with Van Halen, right? 78 kind of ushered it in. Then you had Quiet Riot and Riot just blew the scene up, and then it lasted till 92, 93. By 93, it was like it was starting to drop. By 94, it was gone.
It was gone in 94 for sure. But it was tough medicine to take. But I mean, I remember playing Collective Soul songs in a cover band in 94, and I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, that shit's so like country. The country guys all had gigs. I mean, nothing against Collective Soul. It's just not my favorite stuff, and it wasn't really all that fun to play. and the people in the
Right.
club didn't really care anyways, you know.
No. And the crowds were tiny. It was like, what the hell happened? I mean, it was such a party for so many years that, like, you know, cover bands could draw that many people and have a great time, and everybody went out and there was a scene. You don't see any of those clubs anywhere anymore.
Nothing.
None of them.
Nothing.
None of them. Bangles in Denver, all the Cardi Club chains in Texas. There was the Roxy in Phoenix, the Roxy in Tucson Garden. I mean, just all these places gone. I was like, man, this is sad.
I know, it was sad.
They don't get to experience that whole thing that happened. It was a scene.
Man, I partied at Bangles like every weekend in Denver. That was
Really?
the place.
That
Saw
was the place,
Slaughter
right?
and Winger and all of them coming up through there. It was such a cool place. And then it just, the 90s hit and it was gone.
It was so sad, but hey, you know, can't complain right now.
Right?
No, things are good. You know, things are good
Yeah,
now, but it was
things
a
are
tough time. It was a tough time for sure, where things just changed and it was like, okay, now what do? Do you change your image? What do? You grow a goatee? You know, what do you do? I mean, it was a weird
Get
time.
the Pearl Jam outfit on, your standard issue Pearl Jam kit.
Yeah.
You know?
I actually started out playing in
Flannel.
flannels. And I was like, flannels were the hot thing. I go, wow, should I bust out my flannels again? You know?
Don't do it, brother. Don't do it. Hey, Blair wants to know, who do you consider your major influences in playing bass?
Oh, well, I mean, it goes without saying, Geddy Lee. I mean, it's, you know, that was when I was growing up playing guitar, I actually had a bass at the time. And, you know, I would learn Rush songs on guitar because that's what I played at the time. And then I would be like, you know, these bass parts are really complex. I think I'll try to learn these, you know, and I learned some of them, but I really gained an appreciation for him really early on, like when Hemispheres came out. I remember buying that record at a record store in Germany when I lived in Europe for a while, and just being blown away by the bass and the arrangements. And then when Moving Pictures came out, of course, that's when everybody else came in, right? So yeah, Geddy Lee for sure, and definitely you know, John Entwistle, you know, the first real bass solo ever recorded on what's the name of the song, Robbie? Talking About My Generation.
Oh yeah.
So like the first real bass solo ever recorded, you know, and that was like 65 or something, you know. And so I was always a big Entwistle fan because he always played, you know, very aggressively, and he also knew when to lay back a little bit, but he was a very busy guy. And you know, when I switched from guitar to bass, all of a sudden that whole area became available to me as a bass player, and I was like, oh, now I get what I'm supposed to do, you know, as a bass player. And so yeah, I spent a lot of time studying Entwistle and Geddy for sure. But you know, and then you can't go without mentioning John Paul Jones, you know, big Zeppelin fan, and the guy from Skinner's one of my favorites, Leon Wilkeson. I mean, he's just, you know, boogie woogie bass player, but came up with some really, really great parts that really worked for the songs. You know, he really served the songs rather than being a sort of a show off bass player, you know. But you can make that same argument about Rush too. You know, those bass parts really serve the songs because the songs are very complex, and if they had boring bass parts, it probably wouldn't work, you know. So yeah, those are my tops for sure, you know.
It's all great choices. I mean, I was listening to Rush back. Was it Tom Ramsey, the drummer, the original drummer? I was
John Rutsey.
Yeah. But playing, you know, In the Mood, What You Doing, all that stuff. And then when 2112 came out, I was like, whoa, what the, you know, what a huge change. It was like super cool. And I was like, you know, had to jump in and learn that stuff. So what was the catalyst to making you switch to bass then? What made that happen? Was it necessity? Somebody needed a bass player in a band, or was it you just
No. I was playing in a band, and our bass player either quit or got fired. I don't remember which one it was. And I was mostly a rhythm guitar player because I had, Tommy Hall. I do love Tom Hamilton too. That's another guy that you can't ignore when you're talking about bass.
Yeah.
And so I was playing in a band, and the bass player either got fired or quit. Don't remember. It was a long time ago. And like I mentioned before, I had a bass. And so they were like, hey, why don't you play bass? You have a bass. And so I started playing bass on our demos that we were working on. And I just kind of stuck with it. I didn't really have any plans to go back to playing guitar, especially when I started. I happened to be at the time we had a really good drummer in our band, a guy by the name of A.D. Adams, who was way better than I was, and I had to step up my bass playing game to keep up with A.D. because he was fantastic. Shout out to A.D. out in Phoenix. He was
Phoenix, nice.
Yeah, he lived there now, but he used to live here. He was in a band called Monarch for a long time. So I was in a band with him, and he really, just by being a spectacular musician, he really pushed me, to learn how to lock in with a guy that had a pocket, which is something that you don't, it's hard to teach somebody feel, you either grow into it or you don't. And he had a really great pocket that was easy for me to fall into as a sort of a novice bass player. And so he really helped me develop as a true bass player, as opposed to a guitar playing bass player,
Right.
Absolutely.
So before we move on to any kick stuff, I want to hear about that. But before that, okay, something off the wall. So you were touring, the East Coast, doing the cover band. What's the most amount of people you ever had in your hotel room? You had big parties after the shows. Come on.
God, if I could even remember. I mean,
that was a good party then.
It was. I do remember. I'll tell you one story that was fairly typical, particularly. Well, thanks, Tommy. I appreciate that. You're a good man. I'll tell you a story that was kind of typical, particularly when you're playing in the South. So I think I was probably in Raleigh or Charlotte or something like that, something in the middle of one of the states. And we played the gig, and these two girls brought a barrel of moonshine back to our hotel. Like, those barrels with two ropes on each side, the plastic cutoff barrels,
Right.
And I swear I didn't drink for like a week after that. I mean, I was in so much pain for so long, but it was just it was a free for all. There were so many people from the club there, and that was very typical of what would happen with the cover band I was playing in. It was great, good times. But I was the lightweight in the band, so I didn't drink quite as much. I'm a little bit smaller than everybody else. I'm a thin man, so
thin man.
Yeah, so I don't. Yeah. So, but those, those kind of things happened all the time, and of course, back then, Coke was flying everywhere. It was a fucking blizzard, And I never tried cocaine, but there may have been a couple other guys in the band that were big fans. Not really sure. Can't really say, but it was everywhere, and it was just the thing to do. And so there would always be some dealer guy hanging around, and his girlfriend who's doing way too much coke, and it was.
It sounds like the same story all over the country. The same thing, and you guys are probably 4 people in a hotel room, and so you couldn't see your buddy over there. 5 in one room.
Yeah, Michelle, I'm wearing a Steelers shirt. It's my dad's, so I got out of the shower after jiu-jitsu, and I just grabbed what was on top and didn't smell too bad. So.
Right.
Cool. Coke flying everywhere, and the skinny little chick in the corner that's way drugged out. It sounds kind of like a song. Man.
And then they're fighting. The dealer and his silly girlfriend, his dopey girl, is fighting, and it's just, it was always the same. It didn't change that much place to place.
Yep.
Hell yeah. So Don wants to know, how did you like playing the Mork cruises?
Oh, well, they're always great. I mean, it's for me, personally, it's I'm a master scuba diver trainer, so I go scuba diving as often as I can. And for me, are you diver too, Robbie?
Yes, sir.
No, I'm pointing at Drake.
Drake's a diver. Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I plan dive trips around whatever ports the boat is going to go in, and so those are just easy ways to get somewhere where there's pretty decent diving. I mean, we've been to Cayman, and we went to Belize, and we went to all these great places that I had been to anyways as a diver, but to not have to book a flight, book a hotel room,
right.
Get off the boat, get on the other boat, go out and dive, and then come back and like maybe do a show that night or something, you know, depending on what the schedule was. But for me, you know, there's that, and then there's a chance to see, you know, all the other bands, you know, like Winger, and you know, Night Ranger was on one year, and you know, just you get to watch them in a way that you know, because you're on the boat, you're a captive audience, right? So
Right.
you pick out who you want to go see, and then you just go see them. But like if we play a gig with Faster, I won't necessarily see all their set because I have to get ready, you know.
Right.
So so that for me is, you know, going to see, gosh, I don't know. I think Winger is one of the bands I'm always most impressed with, and I don't even think I ever bought a Winger record, but seeing them live is very different from, you know, listening to
Really?
for me, because they're remarkable musicians. I mean, Kip is a savage, and Rod is a savage, and Rev is. They're all just
great.
Oh, it's like why do I even? You know, I watch them and I'm like, why do I even bother? I'm just going to throw my bass overboard, you know. Or like, and when you're
really
a couple years,
we
the
did
Winery
2
Dogs
shows with them, and they're just killer.
Say again.
I said we just did 2 shows with them, that the Warehouse Live, and
oh, that's right. Yeah, I saw it.
And it was I watched their whole set both nights, and you know, they're killer. They're really good.
They just it does not get old watching that band, and so. And like I said, I never even bought a Winger record back in the 80s. I was like, oh yeah, they're pretty good. But then when you see them live and you realize the level of musicianship that's there, it's like, and like I was going to say, the Winery Dogs were on there a couple years. And cool. So you get, you know, Richie Kotzen, who's a virtuoso and has a spectacular, you know, Chris Cornell sort of voice. Yeah. Just, you know, he just can't do anything wrong. And then, you know, Billy and Mike, and then Richie has his own solo band, and those guys are fantastic. In fact, I even took a bass lesson from Richie's bass player because I thought he was so good. I was like, dude, you got to show me how to play a little bit more effectively. And so he came in my cabin and did a bass lesson with me. It was great. So those are the things that, yeah, it was awesome. But those are the things that really work for me. But I know from the fans' point of view, you know, we're out and about on the boat, and so they can, you know, they just have access to you. You know, everybody wants a moment or a handshake, or they want to tell you they liked your record or your show or whatever it is. You know, they get a chance to do that, and it makes them feel good. And for, you know, for us, particularly Kicks, you know, it's no trouble. You know, you just really grateful that people care. And so, and they get to tell you so. And so that I think is a big thing for the fans on the cruises. You know, it's just the access. You know, you're putting crap on your buffet plate, and you look up and there's Reb standing there, or you know, or anybody, or Tammy's there, or somebody, you know, and it's like, hey, you know, what's happening? So it's really cool. It's a cool vibe, and it's always been. I think we've done every one of them so far. I think we may. It's possible that we missed the first one. I don't quite remember, but it's been quite some time. I think there's been like 10 of them now or something. So
I believe it's 10. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we've done. I'm pretty sure we've done all. I don't know. I can't remember. Maybe one of the fans would know. But yeah. So it's a repeatable, enjoyable experience for me. You know, and like I said, you know, you instead of sitting in your cabin, you get to go out and see your friends' bands. You know.
Yeah.
Like Lita Ford's band. Patrick, Marty, and Bobby are killer musicians.
Bobby's a beast.
Robbie is, I mean, there's just, and Marty's a fantastic bass player, and Patrick has a great voice and can play guitar. Like, I mean, he's up there with Reb. You know, you gotta give those guys props, and they you know, and you know, you wouldn't normally get to see Lita, because when we play with them, we'll play in front of her, and we'll be out before they go on stage, because it'll be just whatever. I mean, Robbie, you know how it is. You got to take whatever transportation you can get, whatever they book for you. And sometimes they, you know, whisk you out of there before you get to see the bands you want. And so, you know, and on the cruise, it's up to you. It's your choice. You go see whoever you want, see as many people as you want. And it's really, really great. There's no other experience that I know of in a sort of, because it is basically a festival situation, but a festival like M3 or any of the other festivals for that matter, you're blocked off from everybody. The fans don't, they can't get their record signed, or they can't get their, we do meet and greets, of course, but those are always frantic, and everybody just gets a second, and I think they appreciate it on the cruises more when they can have a snippet of a conversation of your time. And so I think that's really an important part of what the cruises are all about for people.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I haven't been on one. I want to go bad. Promoting a bunch of shows, as many as I've done, I've never seen an actual concert that I've promoted because I'm always working. And they'll be like, how was it working with Winger? How was the show? And I'm like, I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
And that would be fun to just be a captive audience and be able to go pick and choose and get to spend that time doing that. That would be crazy. Robbie, you've done one or two, right?
We've only done the Legends Rock Cruise. We don't get to do the Monsters of Rock because I think Sullivan's got it locked down, and they use the other band, which whatever. But we did do the Legends Cruise, and it was really good. Night Ranger was on there, which is probably my favorite of all the bands. I mean, those guys
they're so great.
They're just the whole show. It's just, you can't. We've played with them 5-6 times before that, and I stay around every time and watch the whole show. I make sure that I can stick around because I actually tour manage for the band. So usually, if it's possible, if we don't have to go anywhere, I just got to get everybody back if they want to go to the hotel room, and I arrange for a ride after. I'm sticking around and watching these guys. It's a clinic.
I'll tell you a funny story about Brad Gillis. He has got, if you can get him cornered and get him relaxed, he has got the funniest fucking Aussie stories you've ever heard in your life. And he will have you pissing yourself. I mean, it's like you start talking to him about, Aussie or whatever, and it's a relaxed atmosphere, like at the hotel bar or something like that. And he'll look around and it's like, Brad, tell us an Aussie story. He's like, anybody here know Sharon? Nah. And he's like, all right, I got a story for you. And then 2 hours later, it's, your sides hurt from laughing so hard. He's a great storyteller, and he's very, very funny. And, those stories, you just can't make that kind of shit up. So if you get Brad Gillis cornered, ask him for an Aussie story. He will make you laugh your ass off.
We did talk on that Legends cruise. I went and saw all their shows, of course. And then we were watching Sebastian Bach. It was the last show of the cruise. And I was like, man, I saw all Sebastian shows, and I was like, I was determined to stay. I was dead tired, but I'm watching. And then Brad Gillis comes walking, and I'm like, Brad, whoa. And we started chatting, and he was just super sweet, really super nice.
Great guy.
Really genuine. It was great. I didn't get the chance to ask him that. I didn't even think about it. I was just more like, Brad Gillis. Hey, Brad. Yeah.
Yeah. We've been playing shows together for some time, so I got to know him a little bit. He's a good dude. So.
Hell yeah.
It's funny because we played probably 5-6 shows before that, and he goes, have you been with Jack for a while? I go, yeah, we played a bunch of shows with you. He goes, and I never met you. And I go, well, kind of, but you just don't remember. Not that memorable, I guess. No, but it was cool. I think after that, but I've seen him since then, and he, now he's starting to, it takes a little bit. You meet a lot of that meets a lot of people. So I don't.
They just released a new song, by the way. Don't remember the name of it, but I just watched the video today. It was killer. So anybody interested in new Night Ranger, go check it out.
Oh,
they
cool.
just released it today, and they're going to put an album out. I think August 6th it was, or whatever. But the song's great, and Brad is just shredding, and Kelly. I mean, they're, I don't have to go down the list of how great each guy is.
They're great. Yeah,
they're just Night Ranger.
We just got reached out to today by their promotions company asking them if we could get them on the show. So. Mm-hmm. We're looking forward to that. So we're going to bring some of this stuff up that you're saying here.
I don't know if you talk about Ozzy on the show. He'll be like, no.
Yeah, he may not.
Because this
private
is
audience.
A true statement. Sharon Osbourne, a.k.a. Luca Brasi.
That's funny.
That's pretty close, actually.
Yeah.
All right, so, brother, the questions, the things are coming in nonstop. If you see me staring off to the right, it's because this feed is blowing up bigger than it has in a very long time.
Cool.
They want to know where they can find your tour dates right now, because a lot of people are saying, hey, when are you coming to this place? When are you coming to that place? So where can they find tour dates at?
Yeah, so Kix is kicksband.com/tour. Or you can look on bands in town, just search for Kicks. And then Sundogs is our schedules on the sundogsband.com website. If you're a Rush fan and you want to come see a cool Rush show. But yeah, the thing about the Kicks schedule though, I would just tell people to check it a lot because it's been ever changing as you know, Robbie. I mean, it's just been a grinder, and
Yep.
things are just getting switched around all over the place. I feel like things are becoming a lot more solid, particularly this month with a lot of restrictions lifted. But, if the fans want to know where Kicks is playing, you got to look more than once because sometimes promoters are rescheduling shows just because of their local restrictions. And we don't have any control over that. And, most of the times they say, oh, your tickets are still good or whatever. But, you really got to check a lot more than you used to these days because things are changing so rapidly.
Absolutely. And as a promoter, it's been hard. You would think people would be, going to tickets in groves and coming out to the shows. And it's been hard because you still got that fear factor in a lot of the people of, do I want to go? Do I not want to go? So it's been rough. So keep checking those schedules. Hey, big shout out to our brother, James Hyde, an amazing actor on the hit show Monarcho. He is in the house, says Rush's
cool favorite
band of all time. Thanks, James.
Yeah, mine too, I think. Yeah.
Hell yeah. He asked earlier the question about the best bassist. And of course you paid tribute to that as well. So you got Michigan's opening up very soon. Veronica is saying that they're hoping that you've got some stops up in that area coming up this year. Do you know about that?
There's a couple of casinos up there that we play before the pandemic, we played pretty regularly. And I would expect that to happen again, but there's nothing on the schedule right now for Michigan. So I think it's taken a while, depending. I mean, every state has been different. We've been finding, and so I think it's going to take a little bit of time for a place like Michigan or Vermont or somewhere up north that has a little bit smaller population. Well, not including Detroit, but for promoters to actually go, okay, we can make this, we can make money on this show. We're not going to have a show and have everybody stay home out of fear or only have a cap on capacity, which has been the biggest deal of shows, the last, 4 or 5 months, I'd say, with the 30% and then up to 40% and 50%. And it's a moving target for promoters. They don't know, how much money they can make. And these shows have to be booked, a considerable amount of time out, minimum, sometimes 10, 12, 3, 4, 5 months, sometimes even. So, if anything in Michigan happens, it'll probably be in, October, November. Then it's getting kind of cold up in Michigan. I'm not as psyched to go up there in winter.
Right. Michelle wants to know, how did you and the rest of the guys in the bands stay busy during COVID?
Well, like I mentioned before, Sundogs, my Rush tribute band, we played most of the time through COVID. I don't think the first 3 months we didn't do anything, but after that we had, at least 1 gig a month, and, keeping your chops up on Rush songs is difficult. So I have to play, it's a perishable skill, playing Rush. And so we practice every week, and we add new songs to the set, and it takes some time to learn the songs and program keyboard sounds and, get it all right. So I was able to, really keep my chops going through the pandemic in a big way. And, Brian spent his time, learning how to cook on his Traeger grill. Shout out to John Dudley and Tyler from Traeger. John Dudley, the famous archer who hooked us up with the Traeger grills. So Brian spent his time learning how to cook. I'm trying to think, did anybody actually get cut? Nobody in the band actually got COVID. So we did pretty well there. We were able to keep ourselves and our families safe. I think Steve's wife might have had it. I don't remember. Somebody's wife had it. I don't remember which guy, but somebody had it. But I know that Steve likes spending his time at home with his family, and so being stuck at home with his family is no big deal for him. I'm sure he enjoyed it. And so so yeah, Brian spent time cooking, and Jimmy has a couple of dogs and a beautiful wife, and I think we all just sort of turned our telescopes inward in a sense where I certainly had what's the hardest Rush song to perform? Hold on, I'll answer that in a second. I certainly had time to do little projects around the house that had been bugging me for years,
Right.
just stupid shit like fixing a gutter, or putting a fire pit in or something, stuff like that. Just stuff that I'd wanted to do and just never really had the time or the the long stretches of time at the house doing little projects that have been bugging me. But let me answer his question real quick. The hardest Rush song to play. So you would think it would either be something like YYZ or La Via Strangiato, or like Hemispheres or something like that, Prelude. And one of the hardest songs that I had to learn was Digital Man. And it's one of those songs where the bass part is outrageous and the bass part doesn't really match up with the vocal. So I had to, learn that bass part and make it a part of me before I could even start squeaking my voice over it. And so I think Digital Man is one of the hardest ones. Far Cry is another one. It's very difficult. That one's off of Snakes and Arrows. That one's horribly difficult to play. I always dread that when it comes up in the set. I'm like, oh God, I hope, even though we went over it the other day or went over it to sound check, I hope I can do it again, 2 hours later. Right. My favorite Rush song to play, I think I gotta say, it's hard to put a, with a catalog that large and as big as a Rush fan I am, I gotta go with more than one. I mean, there's Melissa. Yes, I did meet Geddy Lee and Alex both, but I gotta go with probably The Trees is one of my favorite to play.
There you go.
Digital Man has become one of my favorite. I never thought I would say this, but I really like performing Subdivisions live because I'm going from keyboard to bass, and I managed to nail the synth sounds, and yes, I do play keys and bass pedals at the same time like Geddy does. I have 2 sets of bass pedals, and I'm a very, very busy man in that band. But I even like playing songs like Tom Sawyer. Even that's like the given one. It's like it's always challenging to play. It's fun. It has some odd time signatures in it, which I enjoy. Time Stand Still is another one of my favorites to play. Yeah, we play Bytor. That one's a little bit easier though. It's not quite as complicated as some of the other ones, but Time Stand Still is one of my favorite ones to play live as well. Oh yeah, I forgot about Red Barchetta. That's like my all-time favorite Rush song of my all-time favorite Rush songs.
So it's the very pinnacle, the paragon of your.
Yeah, that one has a special place for me because that was my dad's favorite song. He would come out and see the band, and he actually liked, he admitted to me, he's like, I kind of like the Rush band better than the Kicks band because I can understand the words better,
Right.
And so, and his favorite song, and he just passed away a year and a half ago. He had cancer from Agent Orange poisoning that he got in Vietnam.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it's still pretty raw, but whenever I play Red Barchetta, I try to think about him, sitting out in the audience, and I know that was his favorite song. So, yeah, so that one has a special place for me. So, but yeah, Red Barchetta is great. I love every time I hear those harmonics come in, I get like this. Whoa, this feeling, it's one of those songs. It's one of those very special songs.
Oh yeah, brother. So from Agent Orange, you said, so he must have had some debilitating issues for quite a while then.
No, actually, he was one of those guys. He was just made in nails, man. He was one tough motherfucker. Can I say motherfucker on here?
Absolutely.
He was just the toughest guy I ever knew. I mean, he was just, he was one of those guys from that era that you just did not want to look. You did not want to have him look sideways at you because it would scare the shit out of you. He wasn't a mean guy. He was just a tough guy. So he had, and actually, sadly, his brother was in Vietnam the same time he was, and he was in you ever see Apocalypse Now?
Oh yeah.
The little river boats. My uncle was on one of those boats, and he also died from Agent Orange poisoning. But he died when he was like, I mean, this is, getting pretty morbid here, but he died when he was about 44, and he was my father's younger brother, and he just had 1 month he was fine. The next month they diagnosed cancer in his throat, and 3 months later he was gone. Just ate a hole in his throat, this Agent Orange. And that was, my dad had a battle that was about, I don't know, maybe 3.5 years, 4 years long. And, he was Army. So he was just about, what's the next hill we got to, oh, well, this is a setback. Well, fuck that. What's the next thing we got to do to, conquer this? He wasn't a why me guy. He was like, I fucking hate this oxygen tank. I hate this mask. I just, what do I got to do to get better? I got to start jogging, or, he was that kind of guy. So he's inspirational, but, he was still young, and he should have been around another 20 years. He was 76, I think. Yeah, he was in Vietnam. Yeah. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the bright spot in that story is Red Barchetta has a special place for me because of him. So more special than it was before.
Absolutely. Kim Brady Venice is battling her own fight right now.
Oh, so man.
We love you. Keep you in our prayers. Absolutely.
Prayers for you, young lady.
Absolutely. She's a great person too. And they make a freaking awesome wine, man. Robbie and I both get bottles of wine from them on the occasion, and they're damn good. I'm going to say. Plus, he uses her as a model on some of them, so that's
okay, cool. Very nice. Keeping the costs down, keep it in the family, right?
Right. Absolutely, absolutely. So, what do you see the road in front of you looking like, my friend?
Well, I feel like with the way the schedule is looking, I feel like, Kicks is going to go back to, doing what we usually play 45 to 60 shows a year. Some years it's a little less, rarely a little more than 65, but that's starting to look like what, just keep doing the Weekend Warrior gig. It fits in with work. Some of us have jobs, and we don't have to have our music endeavors impact our regular gigs where we get our insurance from and all that sort of stuff. So, it looks like we're going to be back to the way we were as far as playing goes and traveling and all that good stuff. So that's what I see, pretty much for the next couple years. It's always possible that Kicks might put out another record. We never rule that out. It's always possible. We do talk about it quite a bit. I think there just has to be some sort of catalyst at some point. Maybe Taylor Rhodes will, call me up one day, and I'll call one of the guys up and say, "Hey, I've got 3 Kick songs I wrote. Let's work on a record." And that, some sort of catalyst like that would be something that we need after, being quarantined for 14 months or whatever it is to get back to doing that. But mostly Kicks revolves around playing live and performing. And so that, I think, is coming back to normal. And that's what I see in the immediate future, which is great. I mean, the future looks bright. I got to wear shades and all that good stuff. I can think of 100 other cliches.
Yeah. That one, that's not a good one.
Sorry about that. That was a bad one.
Yeah, that was a bad dad joke is what that was, brother. Just playing with you. You know what, man? I see all these people, Robbie, in the feed here, and they're saying a GRG dub and a Kicks tour should happen. At least a few shows should happen. I know that's a difficulty and stuff like that, but I might be the right guy to make that happen.
That's true. Because it would come up to a promoter to make it happen. Because otherwise, if you go to Sullivan and you've dealt with Sullivan yourself, so he's going to try and sell his roster. You go to John, he's going to try and sell his roster, and rightly so, right?
Right. That's rightly so. I mean, why should they give the commission away? And they're hard workers, and they deserve the money they make off of selling their bands. I mean, they they do a lot of work for us, Robbie. You know how hard those guys work. You know?
Oh yeah.
And so,
Absolutely.
I love John. He's
yeah.
he's our guy. I mean, he's the man. In my view, he's the man.
Yeah, they're dogged. I mean, they really make things happen for all of our bands, you know. So we're really grateful to have, you know, people that are so dedicated to their craft, because being an agent is a craft. It's a business of relationships. And if you're an asshole, you're not going to have that many great relationships, you know. So
yeah.
You know, so it's a business of relationships, and those guys are very good at it, and they deserve to get paid what they get paid.
Yep.
You know, I think, and I get emails from them pretty much every day on the regular of who's tours and what dates and who's teaming up. But I've talked to Sullivan before about teaming up a band from his roster and somebody with ARM, including, you know, Robbie. And he said we can make that happen. So maybe that's something we actually look into, because I see everybody in here saying if we do it, they're going to come. So why not?
Yeah, who wouldn't? I would. If I was not in the band, I'd go see it.
Well, I hope you come.
Right.
Yeah. But no, I think that would be a good show, and it'd be fun. And, you know, we don't have to do it here. We can do it someplace else and just and rock the house.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. No problem. Right? Be great.
Please. They're all saying, yes, do it. Yes, do it. Drake, work some magic. I'll do my best. Brother, tell me the most interesting story you can about getting into Kix when that happened.
Well, unfortunately, it's not that interesting. It was a job that I got by attrition, I think, more than anything. It was, you know, I was playing in a band with Jimmy and Steve called Funny Money, and we put out a couple records. And when, you know, the short of it is when Kix started getting calls to do reunions, they were not interested in doing it with their former bass player. And so, you know, I'm playing with Steve and Jimmy. Nobody ever asked me to join the band, you know. Thanks, James. Love it. Nobody ever asked me to join the band. It was, nobody said, hey, do you want to do this? It was, you know, and I don't really know what their conversations were about it. I think they were as much matter of fact as I'm trying to relate as how I felt it was, is that they were like, well, you know, Mark already knows all the songs, you know, and it was basically a shrug of the shoulders. And, you know, knowing that, I think part of it was that them knowing that I'm a professional and they can rely on me and stuff like that. And we just started playing shows with me as the bass player. There was never any, you know, discussion about what they were going to do for a bass player. Nobody ever said anything to me. I was just standing there like a butler, you know, and that was it. It just started happening. Of course, it, you know, steamrolled from there. All the work we put in over the years to sort of revive the band, yeah. So unfortunately, it's not an exciting story. There was never any phone call, and I was never like spiking the football, going yes, yes, yes. But there is a funny aside when you know, playing cover bands around this area that was Kix's hometown. You know, we would always, my shitty cover bands would always go see Kix, and we would be like, God, man, how do we be a band like that? And so my answer was actually get in the band. So
join them.
Yeah. So I was like, well, I don't know how you guys are going to do it. I'm just going to get in the band. So I'll be in a cool band. You guys can figure out how to make your band cool. But, you know, we're all those guys they're still pretty tight with those guys nowadays. So yeah, it's a joke that comes up often and never gets old. Always brings the house down. So
Mark is cooler than Donnie.
Well, I mean, thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. I had, after Kix broke up, my longtime co-writer, Rob Galpin, and I had actually gone into, met up with Donnie, and because he knew Rob and I were songwriters. And we actually did 5 demos with Donnie in his studio after Kix broke up. And so those guys weren't talking. And, you know, it was the interesting thing about that is that, you know, I had been friends with Ronnie since like 1985. And I always heard these stories, these crazy stories about, you know, Donnie was you know, tough to work with or whatever it was, just all these crazy things going. And then we get in the studio with Donnie, and he starts telling us those same stories. And he's like,
Right.
oh, you know, it was like pushing cats uphill, pushing water uphill, whatever, herding cats, all those cliches. And I remember we were talking to each other, me and the drummer and my friend Rob, and it was like, you know, these are the same stories, but these are not the same facts that we've heard, you know, being from the other guys in Kicks, you know.
Right.
So it's funny that the perception of the facets that those two different groups of people, well, one person and the group of people lived in, that their perceptions vary so in such a vast way, you know. And we were just kind of scratching our heads going, I wonder which version is real, you know? So
Probably both.
well, I can tell you that we found out later. It's a whole different story, but we did find out later which version was real, personally speaking. So
Are we going to allude to that, or are we just going to leave that?
It's a boring story. I don't want to tell it. Plus I don't like to speak bad about other people. So
I hear you.
And I do have to say though, that when we were working with Donnie, we were writing those songs and recording, he was gracious, he was nice, he was very open as a musician. And he was, he's a songwriting powerhouse. He's a great songwriter. You can't ever take that away from him. And a great performer as well. Really good bass player. And so, those are the things that stand out about Donnie the most to me, getting to know him, as a warm-up band for Kicks over those number of years, and then actually working with him in a creative arena. You can't take anything away from the guy. You just can't. He was great in every way, and being a creative person.
Nice, man.
Cool.
Nice. Robbie.
Yes.
It's Mark Schenker, bro.
Yeah. Hey, does anybody ever ask you, are you related to Michael Schenker? You probably get that all the time.
I have to tell you, they do. And I say no, but I met Rudolph one time, and he made me show him my ID card because he didn't believe me. So he was like, in his thick German accent, he was like, papers, please, Yeah. And so I went and got my ID card, and I showed it to him, and it turns out that my great grandparents were from Dusseldorf, which I think is where, and Schenker is a very common name in Germany. You open up a phone book in Germany, which they don't have anymore, but back then when I lived there, you would open it up and there would just be, a good half a page of Schenkers in any given, reasonably sized German city. So it's a fairly common name over there.
Nice. Well, we actually had people asking that earlier. Scorpions or UFO. Yeah.
Oh, Scorpions, 100% for sure. I was never a big UFO fan. I didn't get it. But I had been listening to Scorpions from when I lived in Germany, and they were the biggest band in Germany, but nobody had ever heard of them in the States. So this was like when Uli John Roth was still in the band. And, this was way back. This is like Tokyo Tapes days, like, 77, 78.
Oh yeah.
And nobody heard of Scorpions over here. And they, luckily they came out with the breakthrough with Rocky Like a Hurricane and all that good stuff, but definitely Scorpions for me. I mean, those albums that came out before they broke it big are unbelievably melodic, and songs like "Loving You Sunday Morning" and and then
I
heard
Love Drive off the Love Drive.
Yeah, Love Drive, and
my favorite album of theirs. That one's great in its
production,
but killer, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, just the heaviest riffs, and they were just like they were, for me, Judas Priest. Of course, I remember Mannequin. Yeah, of course. For me, they were Judas Priest before I really got into Judas Priest. Judas Priest was another band that was very popular in Europe that nobody heard of in the States. And before British Steel came out, it was like, oh man, Sin After Sin and Unleashed in the East, and all those albums were really huge in the community that I was in Germany. So yeah, Scorpions for sure over UFO. I never got it. I just didn't get it. I never got UFO. Sorry, hate to offend you, Eddie Trunk, if you're listening, but
yeah, right.
I'm sorry,
I love
dude.
UFO. Love both bands. Was actually listening to Scorpions way back. You know, in Trance, all that stuff. Animal Magnetism, which was later on, of course. But I mean,
Yeah.
we were listening. My old bass player from those days is in the thread right now. We played all that stuff way back because there was not a lot of people knew about them. You're right. There was, you know, they would come through and they would tour, and it was like, you know, they were an opening act, and it really wasn't until Blackout. When Blackout hit, it was like an atomic explosion.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
You know, Mark, I hear that you are a fantastic photographer.
Well, that's subjective. I mean, you know, it's as with any art, you know, I struggle with it. You know, I sometimes I look at the things I do and I'm like, you know, this is crap, you know, but I have favorite things I do. I'm an underwater photographer. So, you know, I like to think that I'm showing people things that they would never otherwise see if they were a diver. And you're a diver, you know what you can see under there.
Absolutely.
So I have my Instagram has, it's mostly underwater photos and Milky Way photography. And then there's a couple photos of my dogs in there. So, yeah, but Milky Way photography, I mean, I'll you know, we have gigs and I'll look for empty fields where there's some trees or a ridge line or something. And I'll go out after the gig and I'll take the band rental car and just drive out into the woods in the middle of the night and just try to find a good shot of the Milky Way. And I have a bunch of them that are from all around the United States where Kix has played. And, you know, and those guys know, they're like, you know, hey, you're going to want the car tonight, right? I'm like, yeah, I'm going out after we're done. I'm going out Milky Way hunting. So, so yeah, those are my favorites. And I have a good friend who's a Nat Geo photographer, a guy named Jeff Martin, and I go out and shoot with him a lot. And he's taught me a whole bunch about photography. Shout out to Jeff. He's been a great mentor for me, photography wise. And we get to borrow each other's gear all the time. So,
hell yeah!
So, hey, you have this lens. I got to go. He's one of those guys that goes on those National Geographic boats that go trips around Iceland and trips to Antarctica. So he's like the ship's photographer. So, and he's a great, you know, he's really good at composition, which I'm not. I'm more often than not very thrilled with my compositions. And so my Instagram is very carefully curated. You know, I take a zillion pictures and I'll end up with 3 that I like, you know, on any given dive day, I'll take 400 pictures underwater and I might get 1 that I like, you know, and it's just like, I don't know if I'm being too hard on myself because it's not my first, I've been learning and experiment, you know, like with back pictures of the May and stuff like that. You know, I'm a real geek nut, so I'm if there's something out there that can help me take better photos, I usually buy it.
Right, underwater is fantastic.
Oh, we froze up.
Oh no, Robbie, can you see me?
I'm here. Yeah, but it keeps freezing. We're getting a little bit of weird connection.
Yeah, we are. I wonder if it's our time limit coming up on Twitch program.
Oh, it could be.
Yeah, it looks like we've froze up with Mark. No.
Dang it.
Right? Nope. Not our time limit. We didn't exceed that. Twitch already said no.
Okay, well.
Uh-oh. Let's see if I can bring him back in and see if that works. Mark, are you there? Is this thing on?
Is this thing on?
Yeah, it looks, he's gone.
Bummer.
All right, well, Mark Schenker. Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
There he is. What's up?
Don't know what
happened. That's all right. So I'm saying the pictures underwater, I've got to look at these because it's such a different world down there. You can get lost and see things that you can't even explain to people. The changing of the guard and all the beautiful things that happen around the coral between night and day. And it's so incredible. So yeah, I got to check this out.
That's kind of my goal with underwater and Milky Way, because most people don't get out and look at the stars. They don't go to anywhere dark. And so I try to, you know, show people things that they otherwise wouldn't see and maybe inspire them to be a diver, or just to go out for a walk at night and look at the sky. Just look up. I got a bunch of aurora photos that I took when I was in Iceland on there. So being out in the night sky in the Arctic, and
Cool.
there is some stuff that I'm proud of, but mostly photography is a huge struggle for me. It's a labor of self-flogging,
Right. It's a great hobby. I did it. I used to work in a business that sold cameras and did all that fun stuff. And I got so into it, but it was very expensive.
It is expensive, but the payoff is there. I view as the expense is like, if I have the best camera and the best lens for the job, it's always the archer, never the arrow, So if I eliminate the possibility of having a shitty arrow, then the only thing that can fail or can be less than stellar is me. So I can't go, oh, I could have gotten a great picture if I had a better lens or if I had a better camera. So I get all the best gear that I can get my hands on. And so I eliminate that variable from, the creative process of trying to go out and capture underwater photos. And I mean, my underwater camera rig it's this big. It's got 2 handles on it and lights everywhere. And, it's an enormous, very expensive rig. But it paid off because I no longer have a problem with, sensor size or getting enough light down on the bottom. So I eliminated all those variables so that the only reason that I take bad photos is because of me, not because of my equipment. Something to be said.
There is absolutely in all facets. Get yourself prepared for success.
Yeah. Eliminate those variables. Yeah, man.
Absolutely. Mark, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on with us tonight, my brother.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for inviting me. I'm having a good time. So, but I do have to eat eventually. So.
Right. Absolutely. So I'm not joking, man. I'm going to call Sullivan and see what we can't put together, because I know Jamie over at ARM is hounding me to get JRGW on a stage, because I pretty much do it every year at this point. So
Jamie who?
Jamie Lindquist.
Oh, okay. I was thinking of a different Jamie.
Yeah, he's with ARM Entertainment. And,
okay.
I think I'll reach out and see if we can't make that happen, and, and look at some different stops. I know Arizona would be a hot spot, and then obviously the East Coast.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah, Arizona's great.
It'd be fun. So.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us. Keep in touch, man. Let's make some things happen. I'd like to get you on the radio and talk to you on there as well.
Sure. Robbie, thanks for having me. Drake, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks.
Real pleasure. Real pleasure getting to know you guys, and I hope fans all had a good time.
I think they did, man.
Hope to see you out on the road soon. Hopefully we'll cross paths, and maybe he'll do something, or we'll find someone along the line we'll cross paths again.
Fingers crossed.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, Mark. That's Mark Schenker from the band Kiss and Sundogs, and just an all-around gentleman, humble and fantastic guy who just sit here and spend our night with. Your camera is really blurry on my end for some reason.
My camera?
Yeah. I don't know why.
Nope, that's my regular.
It got better. Maybe it's just my eyesight.
Probably that.
Nope, it's still blurry.
You look pretty good from here.
Right? Man, what a nice guy. And all of you people that tuned in tonight, the Kicks fans and Mark Schenker fans, man, you guys are fantastic. The comments and the feeds have been going nuts. It was hard for me to concentrate on the show because it's just, and of course I'm trying to put as many up on the screen as possible so Mark can engage with you and vice versa. So,
I can't see the comments without my glasses. So if I'm doing this, I might look every once in a while. Otherwise, I'm not seeing them. It's a little blurry. So I don't.
We're bummed you were late too, Lisa. Robbie is blurry, Kimberly says.
Oh, well, then what are you going to say?
Kimberly summed it up for us, brother.
Yeah, sometimes it happens.
So anyway, we've got some great guests coming up in our future.
Oh, man. Yeah, we do.
We've got Rudy Sarzo coming on the show.
Yeah.
He is coming on May 8th?
June.
June 8th.
June 8th.
June 8th. He'll be on the show. We had some people reach out to us today about getting Night Ranger locked in with us.
Oh, yeah.
Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys. The
Is he
freaking
back?
Beach Boys, dude.
I know, Brian Wilson. What?
I know, right? How incredible will that show be? So,
Oh, man.
we got a lot of things coming up.
Yeah.
You've got some things coming up too, man. You've got some shows that you're playing. You got Winnemucca coming up.
Winnemucca, yep. And then we got the following week, we got the Pennsylvania. We're in Warrendale for an acoustic show on the Thursday, the 3rd. And then on the 5th, we're playing the festival over in Sunbury, the winery. Then the next week, we're playing with 38 Special over in Milligan, Nebraska, and then headed over to Kansas City, Missouri to play. We'll be headlining with Ron Keel be opening for us that night on the 12th. And then we'll be back out on the 25th in Wisconsin, and the 2nd over in the Midsummer, July 2nd, Midsummer Music Festival in Minnesota.
Minnesota. Yeah, that's going to be some great shows, brother. Great shows. 38 Special. That's going to be that's going to be killer.
Yeah.
Killer. So if you're around me, June 11th, get your tickets to the Country Strong concert series that I am putting on. Entertainer of the Year, Aaron Watson. Band of the Year, the State Line Band, and our very own, one of our family, Miss Morgan Miles, will be joining us on that show.
Nice.
Taking place June 11th right here in San Angelo, Texas. It's going to be a great show. So get your tickets if you're out here. Thank you so much, Robbie. Until we do it again. All right. We love you guys. Thank you so much. And we'll see you again next week.